Well, I wonder how important were the specific promises that T-Mobile made to getting your support? And also, what's the enforcement mechanism? We're hearing about there being billions of dollars that T-Mobile has on the line if they don't roll out 5G in the manner and at the prices that they promised. How do those penalties kick in if they slip?
That's right. One of the great success stories, I think, for the Trump administration and for the FCC is the leadership that the U.S. is showing when it comes to 5G. 5G is a great job story. It's great for our economic prosperity, and it's good for our national security. And the transaction before us with Sprint and T-Mobile, which I announced my support of today, well, the record there is very clear, and it's part of that broader push to secure U.S. leadership in 5G.
So about the enforcement, though, what's your understanding of how that will work? Is that something that needs to be in there for this to be a deal that you support?
Yeah, so there was a filing this morning that T-Mobile made that walked through in a lot of detail the enforceable commitments I've put on the table, and it walks through the mechanisms there. I think one thing that stood out to me from that filing is we're going to see 97% of the country covered with 5G within 3 years. When you think about U.S. leadership in 5G, one of our big goals is to make sure every single community can benefit, not just the biggest cities. And this combination, through that enforceable mechanism that's in that detailed filing, is going to put us on that path.
Brendan, in terms of the supply chain for 5G build-out here in the U.S., given the fact that there's so much focus on the executive order and the order from the Commerce Department in the past week around Huawei and what that will mean to that 5G rollout here in the U.S., how robust is the competition here, and how are you thinking about developing that supply chain?
Yeah, so the security of the 5G network is also one of our top priorities. Just last week or 2 weeks ago, we voted to prevent China Mobile, which is a company ultimately wholly owned by the People's Republic of China, from interconnecting with the U.S. You saw the Trump administration announce steps as well with respect to Huawei to make sure we have security in our supply chain. So we're very focused on this issue, and I think right now the leadership we're showing is going to hold us in good stead.
Commissioner, do we have enough specifics on what security looks like? I mean, because to some extent, the U.S. is still reliant on foreign suppliers for the 5G network, whether you're talking about Samsung or about Ericsson. At what point can we draw the line and understand which foreign suppliers are delivering secure equipment and which are not?
Yeah. When we step back and think about that global competition for 5G, I mean, first and foremost is making sure it's built here and built with secure devices. And right now, the U.S. has the world's largest 5G build of any country. We're on pace to have over 40 cities this year. And the security proceedings that we have in place, one idea we've put on the table is potentially taking out equipment from certain vendors that's currently in the U.S. network. But we haven't made a final decision at the FCC whether to take that step. We're also looking at whether there's reviews that can be put in place before new equipment goes into the network. And frankly, making sure that people feel that they have choice in terms of the equipment that goes in, and that companies that are deploying this network equipment share our Western values in terms of respecting IP rights, respecting the First Amendment. These are all steps we're looking at. The FCC and the Department of Homeland Security is very involved in this effort as well.
Speaking of Western values, Commissioner, I wonder how you'd characterize our European allies' willingness to side with us or Huawei in this whole rift.
Yeah, the State Department, I let them speak for their efforts. They've been engaged in a lot of bilateral and multilateral conversations about these security threats, and I defer you to them as to the current state of play on those discussions.
Commissioner, I just want to get your thoughts in general over the next couple of years about how you're thinking about connectivity here in the U.S. We're sitting here today talking about 5G, but you've also got SpaceX, for example, poised to send its first satellites into low Earth orbit to start building out its broadband network. Other situations like that also in development right now. What will it look like here in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think we're at a really interesting time for consumers across the country. To your point, we're about to see a level of convergence that we've frankly only talked about before. That's part of the lens through which I looked at this particular transaction. Take the home broadband market, for instance. Right now, a lot of customers feel like they have one or no choice for high-speed home internet. But with 5G, you can get wirelessly the same fiber-like speed that you can only get from one provider. And you put on top of that, to your point, this new generation of low Earth orbit satellites that are coming online. And I think there's going to be really more choice than ever for consumers when it comes to high-speed internet access, and that's going to be a great thing.